Hi guys, so I'm doing this video to talk about my new diagnosis. I still have Asperger's, that hasn't gone anywhere. This new diagnosis, sorry, I'm trying to balance it on my lap. I think it might negate the major depressive disorder diagnosis, so I'll explain, I'll just jump right in. So you might remember me in previous videos talking about how I felt that I definitely had a mood issue, but I didn't know if major depressive disorder, also called clinical depression, I didn't feel if that was the right answer or not because it was so cyclical, up and down. And bipolar disorder was suggested to me by my counselor, but my psychiatrist back in January actually diagnosed me with borderline personality disorder. One of the symptoms of that is emotional dysregulation. So let me just explain the name because everyone says to me, borderline what? What are you borderline of? So back in the day, like 50, 60, 70 years ago, they would classify mentally ill people as neurotic or psychotic. People who had my profile or my group of symptoms were considered to be on the borderline between neurotic and psychotic. And the name stuck. Personality disorder means it changes who I am. It pervades my functioning, how I interact with people, how I deal with the world. And the DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, still uses the term borderline personality disorder, but that book is really only used in North America. Outside North America, where they use the IDC, International Disease Classification, it's called emotionally unstable personality disorder, which I think maybe explains better what it is, because that's the primary symptom. And I'm just going to look at my phone here. The DSM lists 9 symptoms. I believe I fit 6. So I'm going to read these to you. I'm just going to read these to you. Frantic effort to avoid being or feeling abandoned. Instability in relationships. I'm not reading the entire problems with an unstable sense of self-image, or identity. That is something I didn't realize other people don't do. I will change my opinion. If I'm talking to a person who doesn't believe in ghosts, I say I don't believe in them. If I'm talking to someone who does, then I say I do. Reality is I do. Now, some people with BPD wouldn't actually be able to say if they do or not because they're so dysregulated from their identity. I have an idea of what I believe spiritually, religiously, politically, scientifically, whatever, but I tend to hide it and go with the people who are. Sorry, I got a weird notification on my phone. I tend to hide that and go with what's around me, which I didn't know other people don't do, or I thought maybe it was an Asperger's thing, or. So what else? Suicidal behavior. For me, it's ideation and threats. I've never actually self-harmed or attempted. Mood swings. And let's see, chronic feelings of emptiness. And problems controlling intense anger and angry behavior. So, I didn't even know there was such a big diagnosis missing. I just thought they had the mood part wrong. So to get this diagnosis and to see so many things that fit, to explain things that are going on, it's been revelatory. There is therapy for it called dialectical behavior therapy. I'm doing a little group right now, although it's not the full-blown therapy. I think I will be doing that coming up. I don't know. I'm on a wait list. I think that's going to be, and that's about accepting things, tolerating distress, because I live with a lot of emotional pain. Um, so yeah, I know I still have OCD and Asperger's. The ADHD I'm not sure about. And generalized anxiety, I'm pretty sure I still have that, although in some of my reading, it includes anxiety in the intense emotions that people with BPD experience. It includes anxiety as part of that. And then the depression, I feel my mood issues have been explained. And I don't know that I have the depression diagnosis or not, but then there have been times where, what else would you call it but a depressive episode? So maybe I do have all those things, but I definitely have BPD, and I'm working on getting help. And just want to talk about, I have this note here on my phone in terms of what caused this. So it's a combination of genetics. And then the other thing, I mean, if you're a nerd like me, you'll remember this easily. Um, Invalidating social environment. So you start off with someone this was just my temperament. I'm an emotionally sensitive person, but then you put them in an environment where their emotions aren't taken seriously. And in all the reading, they talk about that being home, growing up in an abusive environment. And yes, there was abuse. I will be doing a video on domestic violence. But I think my school years, particularly grades 4 to 7, which you can hear about in previous videos, I think that was a big part of the problem. Because in this note I took a picture from a book actually. When it describes an invalidating environment, it's like describing my school experience. The environment does not consider your individual needs. The environment assumes you will figure out on your own how to interact with it. The environment offers little or no substantive assistance. The environment assumes it is right and you are wrong. And the environment ignores most of your requests at first, only responding when you become increasingly demanding. So when I think back, I think my school traumatized me. I think about the time they were sending me home for behavior, and I was talking about jumping in front of cars, and they told me to stop being silly. I think about the time I was accused of swearing at the teacher, and I wasn't, and I threw a pencil at her out of frustration. That's part of BPD as well, very low frustration tolerance. And I threw a pencil at her, hit her in the head. I got suspended for the pencil throwing, which, okay, can't argue with that. But no one even discussed the fact that I never swore at her. And these are just examples. I'm sure there's many more I could dig out of my memory. But when I look back at it, I think that's what happened. I think home environment was part of the problem. My father was part of the problem. And then I think I said genetics. My mom, after reading some of the symptoms, feels that my dad has it. But then I wonder, did that come from his environment? Because I know he didn't have the greatest childhood. So I think I can't separate out if this is genetic or environment or both for both me and him. And it was a lot to absorb getting that diagnosis. I wasn't expecting, I'd heard of it, I just never fathomed that I had it. And I thought it would open a lot of doors to resources, and it really hasn't. And that's going to be another video, the lack of mental health and mental disorder resources. So far, it hasn't really changed that much, except for the one group I'm in and another program I'm on a wait list for. But I guess I have an answer and I have more hope. There's treatment. I can maybe learn to control my emotions better. Um, hmm. I feel like I'm missing something. I guess I can always come back if I remember something important. So I think I'm going to wrap it up there. So it's called, if you want to Google it, it's called borderline personality disorder. So I believe I have the BPD, the Asperger's diagnosis still stands. I have OCD, and as far as I understand, the generalized anxiety disorder diagnosis still stands. But I believe the BPD negates the depression, and I'm not sure where the ADHD stands. That was diagnosed when I was 6 years old. Maybe I outgrew it. I don't know. Yeah, so I'm gonna wrap it up there. And next month's video, what's next month's video gonna be? Oh, next month's video is gonna be about codependence. I thought about combining it with this, but it could use its own block of time. So that'll be July's video. Thank you.